betrayed by your own blood, how to overcome the greatest disappointment. For years, my life was guided by the stability of public service. I followed the rules, worked tirelessly, and took pride in the security that this position provided me. However, deep inside me, there was always a burning desire for more, to build something of my own, to leave a legacy that went beyond the bureaucratic routine. It was then that the idea of becoming an entrepreneur came to me, but due to legal restrictions, I could not open a company in my name. And that was when I made the biggest mistake of my life, trusting my own family. The idea seemed perfect at the time. My brother, who had always demonstrated entrepreneurial skills, would be the face of the company, while I, behind the scenes, would be the brains behind the operations. We believed that together we could build an empire, something that would allow us to live with dignity and comfort. And for a while, everything seemed to be going well. The company grew, profits increased, and our family enjoyed a period of unprecedented prosperity. Our company specialized in providing consulting services to small and medium-sized businesses. My brother was responsible for finding new clients and closing deals, while I focused on developing strategies and solutions for our clients' problems. Our partnership was seamless and our results were impressive. However, as the company grew, we began to face new challenges. My brother began to distance himself from me, and our arguments became more frequent. He began to make decisions without consulting me, and I felt increasingly excluded from the decision-making process. I tried to talk to him about my feelings, but he simply ignored me. He said that I was being overly sensitive and that I needed to learn to trust him. But I knew something was wrong. I could feel that he was manipulating me, using my trust for his own ends. The situation got worse when my brother started hiring friends and acquaintances to work for the company. They were incompetent people who had no experience in anything related to our business. I knew this was a mistake, but my brother didn't want to listen. Our business began to suffer, and our clients began to complain about our lack of professionalism. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. My brother had become an obstacle to the company's success, and I didn't know how to deal with it. It was then that I realized I had made a serious mistake. I had trusted someone who didn't deserve my trust. My brother, whom I had considered my partner and friend, had turned out to be a traitor. He had used me for his own ends, to enrich himself at my expense. Now, looking back, I realized that I should have been more careful. I should have seen the signs, I should have listened to my instincts. But at the time, I was blinded by my own ambition and my desire to succeed. The lesson I learned was bitter, but valuable. I will never trust anyone blindly again, especially in business matters. And if I ever decide to undertake another business, it will be with much more caution and wisdom. And for a while, everything seemed to be going well. The company grew, profits increased, and our family experienced a period of unprecedented prosperity. But as the saying goes, money is the root of all evil. As the company grew, so did the distrust and jealousy. My brother, who was initially my partner and friend, began to distance himself from me. He began to make decisions without consulting me, to hide financial information and to treat me as a mere employee. I, who had always been a proud and independent person, felt increasingly trapped and disrespected. I remember when we first started the company, my brother and I were inseparable. We worked together, ate together, and even went to the movies together. But as time went by, everything changed. My brother began to surround himself with people who did not share our values and principles. He began to care more about profit than the well-being of our customers and employees. I tried to talk to him about it, but he simply ignored me. He said I was being overly sensitive and that I needed to learn to trust him. But I knew something was wrong. I could feel that he was manipulating me, using my trust for his own ends. The situation got worse when my brother started making decisions that directly affected my life. He started controlling my schedule, my projects, and even my relationships. I felt like a prisoner without the freedom to make my own decisions. I started to feel isolated and alone. My friends and family didn't understand what was happening and advised me to take a break and not worry so much. But I knew it wasn't that simple. I knew I needed to do something to change the situation. That's when I started looking for help. I started talking to other entrepreneurs and seeking guidance from professionals. I also started reading books and articles on how to deal with difficult situations in business. Now looking back, I realized that I should have been more careful. I should have seen the signs. I should have listened to my instincts. But at the time, I was blinded by my own ambition and my desire to succeed. The lesson I learned was bitter but valuable. I will never trust anyone blindly again, especially in business matters. And if I ever decide to start my own business again, it will be with much more caution and wisdom. I, who had always been a proud and independent person, felt increasingly trapped and disrespected. I tried to talk to him to explain how I felt, but he simply ignored me. With each passing day, the situation got worse. I felt like an outsider in my own company, a company that I had helped build with my sweat and blood. I remember when we first started the company, my brother and I were a close-knit team. We worked together, shared ideas, and dreamed of a bright future. But now I felt like a shadow of my former self. I had lost control of the company, and even worse, I had lost the trust of my own brother. The situation had become untenable. I could no longer work in an environment where I was not respected or heard. I started looking for solutions, looking for ways to turn the situation around. But the more I tried, the more I felt trapped. I started to question my own leadership skills. Maybe I wasn't good enough, maybe I didn't have the skills to run a business. But then I remembered all the times I had overcome obstacles, all the times I had proven myself. I realized that the problem wasn't me, but the relationship I had established with my brother. I had allowed him to manipulate me, to make me feel insignificant. But now I was determined to change that. I started looking for support, looking for people who could help me overcome this situation. I found a mentor, an experienced businessman who gave me valuable advice. I also found a support group, a group of women who had been through similar situations. With the support of these people, I began to feel more confident. I began to see that I was not alone, that there were other people who had been through similar situations. And with that confidence, I began to plan my next move. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to turn things around. I was determined to regain control of my company and rebuild my relationship with my brother. And with the support of the right people, I knew I could do it. With each passing day, the situation got worse. I felt like an outsider in my own company, a company that I had helped build with my sweat and blood. It was then that I realized I had made a grave mistake. I had trusted someone who did not deserve my trust. My brother, whom I had considered my partner and friend, had turned out to be a traitor. He had used me for his own ends, to enrich himself at my expense. I felt as if I had been struck by lightning. I could not believe that my own brother could betray me in such a way. I had trusted him with my life, with my dreams, with my projects, and he had betrayed me. I began to question my own judgment. How could I have been so blind? How could I have trusted someone who did not deserve my trust? I felt like an idiot, like a person who did not know the difference between good and evil. But then I remembered that I was not the only person who had been betrayed by someone they trusted. I remembered that betrayal is a common experience, that many people go through it at some point in their lives. I began to seek support, to look for people who could help me overcome this experience. I found a therapist, a professional who helped me process my feelings and find a way to deal with the betrayal. I also found a support group, a group of people who had been through similar experiences. With the support of these people, I began to feel better. I began to understand that the betrayal was not my fault, that I was not responsible for my brother's behavior. I began to see that I was a victim, that I had been hurt by someone I trusted. I also began to understand that betrayal can be an opportunity for growth. I began to see that I could learn from this experience, that I could use this experience to become a stronger and wiser person. And with this understanding, I began to feel more confident. I began to see that I could overcome this experience, that I could find a way to deal with the betrayal and move on. He had used me for his own ends, to enrich himself at my expense. Now looking back, I realized that I should have been more careful. I should have seen the signs, I should have listened to my instincts. But at the time I was blinded by my own ambition and desire to succeed. I remember how I was so focused on growing the company that I didn't see the warning signs. I didn't see how my brother was becoming increasingly controlling and manipulative. I didn't see how he was using the company for his own ends instead of working for the greater good. I also remember how I was so eager to please my parents and family that I didn't listen to my own instincts. I didn't listen to the voice inside me that told me something was wrong. I didn't listen to the voice that told me I should be more careful and more cautious. But now, I understand that ambition and the desire to succeed are not enough to justify a lack of care and attention. I understand that it is important to be careful and attentive, especially when it comes to relationships and business. I also understand that it is important to listen to your instincts and trust your intuition. It is important not to ignore the voice inside you that tells you something is wrong. It is important not to ignore the warning signs and not to get carried away by ambition and the desire to succeed. But at the time, I was blinded by my own ambition and desire to succeed. The lesson I learned was bitter but valuable. I will never trust anyone blindly again, especially in business matters. And if I ever decide to undertake again, it will be with much more caution and wisdom. This experience taught me that blind trust can lead to disastrous consequences. It is important to have a critical eye and analyze people and situations before making a decision. In addition, it is essential to have a solid business plan and a well-defined risk strategy. Betrayal and manipulation can generate anger and resentment in people. It is common to feel hurt and betrayed when someone we trust lets us down. However, it is important not to let these feelings consume us. Instead, we must learn to deal with them in a healthy way and use this experience as an opportunity to grow and learn. It is important to remember that trust can be rebuilt, but it is a process that takes time and effort. It is essential to be patient and not rush into trusting someone again. In addition, it is important to set clear boundaries and communicate effectively to avoid future misunderstandings and betrayals. And if I ever decide to start my own business, again, it will be with much more caution and wisdom, and that is when I made the biggest mistake of my life, trusting my own family. The solution seemed simple and logical. My father would be my partner on paper, and I would continue to run the business, making decisions and ensuring that everything prospered. To comply with legal formalities, I only owned 1% of the company, while he with 99% represented the official face of the enterprise. Little did I know that I was digging my own grave. This decision seemed innocent at the time, but it turned out to be a fatal mistake. My father, who initially seemed like a loyal partner, began to exert his control over the company. He began to make decisions without consulting me, to ignore my suggestions and to treat me like an employee rather than a partner. The situation became untenable. I felt like a prisoner in my own company, with no control over the decisions that affected my future. I began to feel angry and resentful towards my father, who had betrayed and manipulated me. Anger and resentment can be intense and destructive emotions. They can consume us and lead us to make impulsive and harmful decisions. However, it is important to learn how to deal with these feelings in a healthy and constructive way. It is essential to recognize that anger and resentment are normal and justified feelings in situations of betrayal and manipulation. However, it is important not to let these feelings define or control us. Instead, we must learn to channel these feelings in a positive way, seeking justice and resolution. Little did I know that I was digging my own grave. The first few years were hard. I dedicated myself day and night to growing the company. I invested all my time, energy, and when necessary, even part of my public salary to cover emergency expenses. The business began to flourish, loyal customers appeared, and the brand I had envisioned took hold. I felt proud of what we were building, a dream that was finally taking shape. It was then that I made the decision that would change everything. I decided to leave my public job and dedicate myself full-time to the company. With the certainty that my foundation was secure, I resigned. I was saying goodbye to stability, but with the conviction that I was embarking on a path of freedom and growth. But I didn't know what my own father had done. I had no idea of the betrayal that was being plotted in the shadows. Not only had he ignored all the years of sacrifice and dedication that I had put into the company, but he had cruelly and cunningly taken something that belonged to me and given it to my brother. Without warning, without explanation. A fatal blow that took everything from me overnight. The shock was indescribable. What had once been my dream, my construction, had become a sandcastle crumbling beneath my feet. I tried to understand. I tried to argue, but the answer was cold and cutting. The company was never yours, and at that moment I realized that blood ties meant nothing when greed and preference for another son spoke louder. The pain and betrayal I felt were intense and profound. I felt as if I had been stabbed in the back, not only by my father, but also by my own brother. The feeling of being betrayed and abandoned was overwhelming, and I felt like I was sinking into a bottomless pit. Greed and preference for another son were the motives behind my father's betrayal. He had chosen my brother as his successor, and I was just an obstacle to be removed. The company that had been my passion and my dream had been reduced to a mere tool for the achievement of my father's goals. The loss of the company and my father's trust was a hard blow, but the loss of the relationship with my brother was even more painful. I had considered my brother my best friend and my partner, and his betrayal was a stab in the heart. And in that moment I realized that blood ties meant nothing when greed and preference for another son spoke louder. A sense of helplessness washed over me. I had left behind years of stability, a steady salary, benefits, security. Now I had absolutely nothing. No source of income, no assets, nothing that would guarantee me a future. All that was left was an immense void and an uncontrollable anger. The pain of being betrayed by one's own father is something that words cannot describe. How could someone who should protect and support be the same one who destroys without mercy? How could someone who saw my efforts up close be able to turn his back on me in favor of another son? The questions echoed in my mind, but the answers never came. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal, it was the contempt, the way I was discarded as if I had never had any value. The man who was supposed to be my role model became the biggest villain in my story. The company, which was born from my dreams and my sweat, now belonged to someone who never lifted a finger to build it. And me? I was a specter, a ghost wandering in the limbo of disappointment. I spent days unable to sleep. Anger boiled in my chest, burning my soul. I wanted justice. I wanted revenge. I wanted him to feel at least a fraction of the pain he had caused me. But what could I do? I had nothing formalized, no contract, no document that proved that the company was truly mine. I had blindly trusted the person who should have been the first to protect me. The feeling of helplessness was overwhelming. I felt like I was trapped, with no way out. Anger and frustration consumed me, and I didn't know how to deal with these feelings. I felt as if I was at my father's mercy, with no control over my own destiny. The trust I had placed in him had been brutally betrayed. I had believed that he loved and respected me, but now I saw that this was just an illusion. The reality was that he had used me for his own ends, and that I was just a means for him to achieve his goals. The pain of betrayal was intense, and I didn't know how to overcome it. I felt as if I was suffering from an irreparable loss, as if a part of me had been ripped away. The trust I had placed in him had been destroyed, and I didn't know how to rebuild it. Revolt mixed with fear. What would become of me now? How would I start over from scratch without any support? The financial and emotional dependence that my family had imposed on me for years was finally showing itself to be a fatal trap. I had been raised to believe that this was my home, my security, but the truth was cruel. I had never had anything, and now I didn't even have solid ground to stand on. But in the midst of all this darkness, something began to ignite inside me. A flame that at first was just a glimmer of light, but that grew stronger every day. The flame of a new beginning. If I had managed to build something once, I could do it again. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be quick, but I refused to be defeated. I used all my anger as fuel. Instead of wallowing in regret, I decided to channel the pain into energy to rebuild my life. I started from scratch, with no resources, no support, but with unwavering determination. The first few months were tough. I faced the despair of not having a steady income, the anguish of uncertainty. But little by little, I began to chart my own path. I sought knowledge, made contacts, and set up a new project. This time, without depending on anyone, without needing false family promises. The freedom to create something of my own was incredibly liberating. I no longer needed to depend on anyone's approval or support. I was my own boss, my own mentor. I could make decisions without needing permission. I could follow my own dreams without needing permission. The responsibility of building something from scratch was a challenge, but it was also an opportunity for growth. I learned to be more self-sufficient, to trust myself and my abilities. I learned to deal with uncertainty and overcome obstacles. And along the way, I discovered that true happiness and fulfillment come from within. They come from knowing that you are doing something you love, something you are passionate about. They come from knowing that you are in control of your own destiny, that you are creating your own path. This time, without relying on anyone, without needing false promises from family. Each small achievement was a victory against those who betrayed me. Each step forward was a punch in the stomach for those who underestimated me. And each day the certainty grew within me. Success is the greatest answer to betrayal. With each obstacle overcome, each challenge overcome, I felt a sense of satisfaction and victory. I knew that I was proving to myself and to others that I was capable of overcoming anything. And at the same time, I was showing those who betrayed me that I was not defeated, that I was stronger than ever. Success became my motivation, my strength, and my inspiration. I knew that the more I achieved, the more I would be proving that betrayal had not destroyed me. On the contrary, it had made me stronger and more determined. And each day the certainty grew within me. Success is the greatest answer to betrayal. Today, I look back and see the story that destroyed me being rewritten by my own hands. I am no longer the victim. I am the protagonist of my journey. Fear has turned into courage. Trauma has turned into learning, and dependence has given way to total independence. I feel proud of what I have achieved, what I have overcome, and what I have learned. I feel strong and capable of facing any challenge that comes my way. I feel free to create my own destiny, to follow my own dreams, and to live my own life. My journey has not been easy, but it has been valuable. It has taught me to be resilient, to be courageous, and to be independent. It has taught me to value my own life and my own happiness. And most of all, it has taught me to never give up on my dreams and to never lose faith in myself. What about my father and brother? They are still trapped in the cycle of greed and disloyalty they created, the company that stole from me. Well, life has its own forms of justice, and everything that is built on betrayal will one day crumble. What about me? I am here stronger than ever, proving that no one can destroy someone who refuses to be defeated. I feel free and light, without the weight of betrayal and disloyalty. I feel proud of myself for having overcome the obstacles and for having found the strength to move forward. I am grateful for the lesson I learned, which is that true strength comes from within, and that no one can take away our dignity and self-esteem. The new beginning was painful, but it was also the best thing that ever happened to me. Today, I am not only the master of my own path, but I am also living proof that true strength does not lie in those who stab us, but in those who get up after the fall. But is the past really behind us? Has the cycle of betrayal and disloyalty really been broken? Or are there even more hidden secrets waiting to be revealed? My journey may have come to an end, but the truth is that destiny still has many surprises in store for me.